Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be my April wrap up. This was such a good reading month for me. Like, I still can't get over it. I read 9 books this month, which is less than I read last month. I had multiple 5 stars this month. I really loved like almost all the books that I read. I did have one DNF, like a soft DNF, but other than that, it was a great reading month and I can't wait to share my thoughts about these books with you guys. I have some new favorites that I'm so excited about. And yeah, let's just get into the video. For these videos, I like to go in chronological order, and the first book that I finished this month was Cage of Dreams by Rebecca Schaeffer. This is actually the second book in I believe it's a duology, like I'm pretty positive. First book was City of Nightmares. It was actually a book that I received in my Fairy Loot monthly subscription last year. I think it was in February actually. I can't really share a lot about the second book because I don't want to spoil anything, but I can give a little bit of a summary about the first book and kind of like what it's about. So the book takes place in the city of Newham. The book is marketed as Strange the Dreamer meets Gotham City. So Newham is a crazy city and it's overrun by nightmares, and these people become nightmares actually that live in the city when they fall asleep and dream. So the people in the city have to prevent themselves from dreaming. They put different chemicals and stuff in their water system that will help them not to dream and thus not become a nightmare, because the people that become nightmares actually become their own personal nightmares. Like if I was afraid of spiders and I dreamed, I would become a spider. It's crazy. So this city is horrible. It's overrun by all these nightmares. It's super dangerous. And you basically follow your main character, Ness, who her entire family was killed because her sister actually turned into this like giant nightmare and killed her family. So it starts off very dark. Like, that's one thing about this series that I will say is it is very dark actually. And I feel like the second book in particular was very dark. And it's like a YA dystopian fantasy. I wouldn't say it's fantasy. It's more like just dystopian, but the premise is very interesting. There is a little bit of a romance. I would say in the second book there wasn't as much romance as there was in the first book, which I was a little bit disappointed in. But anyways, I did end up rating this book a 4-star. I really like this series a lot. I think it's very interesting. I think it's a good concept. I will say I feel like it kind of needs to go in like the new adult category. I don't know, because it is very dark. So look up trigger warnings and stuff. But yeah, I did really enjoy my time. I think it's a fun book, and that is my rating for it. The next book I read was actually a memoir, and I listened to the audiobook version of it, and that was Yes Please by Amy Poehler. This book is honestly so heavy because there are pictures and stuff in here, which I need to look through this because I did listen to the audiobook, so I wasn't really like flipping through the pages. I didn't really see anything. I don't like to rate memoirs on like a star-based scale or whatever, but I did really enjoy this. It was really fun to listen to the audiobook format too, because she also has a bunch of different like guest stars on the audiobook. Like I think Seth Meyers was on there, Carol Burnett, her parents were on there. It was really entertaining, and it was cool because I really don't know a lot about Amy Poehler. Like I knew she was on SNL. I just didn't really know anything else about her besides that. And I love Parks and Rec so much, and I've been rewatching Parks and Rec, so it was really fun to listen to her memoir for it. So I did really enjoy this one, and I would recommend it if you're wanting like just a good like biography based off a celebrity that you really enjoy. I really recommend it, and I love her voice too, so it's always fun listening to her voice. So this next book was my first 5-star of the month, and I am absolutely obsessed with this book, and it's a new series that I'm obsessed with, and that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. This was actually a book club pick from my best friend Sam. She picked this for our monthly book club. This is the type of book I probably would have never picked up for myself, so I'm so glad that she decided that we should all read it. This is an adult fantasy. The world that they live in is kind of like inspired by Roman history. It's gonna be really hard for me to describe what this book is about because it's just so dense and like it is complicated. I'm just bad at summaries in general, but this book was so good. It's like a high fantasy. This is the type of book that I actually truly don't understand how authors can create a whole world through their writing. I've never really looked for like good world building in the books that I read. I feel like I'm more like character driven in the books that I like to pick up, but the world building in this book is absolutely absurd. It's so good. So this book takes place in the Cation Republic, and there's a hierarchy that rules the whole empire pretty much. And in this hierarchy, there's about 8 levels of like different groups that you could be on. And there's this thing called will that people can cede from people, like take will from another person. And so if you're at like the bottom of the hierarchy, you're the one that gives your will or like your power to the people in the higher hierarchy. Obviously that causes a lot of conflict, and the Cation Republic that these people are living in, it didn't used to be that way. And you follow your main character actually is Vis, who before the hierarchy existed was a prince in a way, and he has to go undercover because if people find out that he was part of like the old kingdom and stuff, they will obviously turn on him and attack him. So he has to go undercover. He's a very scrappy person and has just like had to learn how to live on his own because his family was actually killed in the war before. It's hard to give a summary because there's so much that happens in this book. Pretty much follow Vis. There's a lot of different challenges and conflicts that arise. He has to attend this school where he's trained in order to eventually end up in a higher place in the hierarchy. It's so complicated to tell you like the plot because there's so many different things that happen. You should go into this with an open mind. Like I don't want to spoil too much. This was such a good book. 5 stars. I cannot wait for the rest of the series to come out. So good. Next book was the first book that I finished on my April TBR actually, and that was I Killed Zoe Spanos. I did listen to the audiobook version of this book and it was alright. I'm just honestly not really a thriller person. That's just not my genre. I don't know. I feel like with thrillers, I just always forget, like after I finish the book, I always forget like what I read, and I forget like who did it. Like I do remember what happens in this book, and it was entertaining just to listen to, I guess. That's the problem for me for thrillers. I don't ever care about any of the characters, like ever. I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, this takes place in Hampton's Village. You follow your main girl, Anna, who there's like time jumps where like she is in prison because she was convicted of murdering this girl Zoe Spanos, but did she actually kill her? There's a lot of things from that night where Zoe Spanos was killed that Anna can't remember. So pretty much throughout the entire book, you're trying to figure out if Anna did actually kill her, what else happened, what is she missing from her memory. It is an interesting concept. It kept me entertained. The audiobook narrator was good. There was like a couple different ones actually. But yeah, it was just forgettable. I rated it 2.5 stars. That's just an unfair rating because this is just not my genre in general. Like if you're really into thrillers, you might really like this. It's a YA. By the way, I forget if I mentioned that. But yeah, that was I Killed Zoe Spanos. Okay, this next book was crazy, and that was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I still don't even really know what to rate this book. I think I landed on a 3-star. It's one of the weirdest books I've ever read, I think. I mean, in general, Ali Hazelwood has never really been my favorite author. I did really like the overall writing in this book, actually. It read very easily, if that makes sense. Like, I read it very quickly, and like the pacing of the plot felt really good, actually. And it was funny. Like, I really liked Misery. I think she's my favorite female protagonist that Ali Hazelwood has written before. I really liked her a lot. I don't know, just in general, I guess the concept was a little hard for me to get behind. Like, I know he's a werewolf, so half the time he's a human, but the whole time I was picturing him as a wolf, and I was like, I need this out of my brain, because then it made things like really uncomfortable. Also, if you read this book, the whole knot thing, like actually what is going on with that? I was very confused. I mean, I wasn't confused, I knew what was going on, but like also I didn't know what was going on. It was like, is that some sort of like lore that I don't know about, or did that actually just come out of her brain? Like, I just don't know, you know? Like, I thought I was well versed in vampire and werewolf lore, but I've never heard anything like that before, if you know what I mean. But anyways, this book was like, I enjoyed my time. I don't need to read it again. This is my book club book that I picked actually for this month for my friends, so I made them all read it as well. So we suffered through it together, but it wasn't suffering. It was entertaining for sure. I don't know what else to say about this. I didn't really give a plot, but it's pretty much marriage of convenience. your main girl Misery is a vampire. She ends up marrying the leader of the werewolf pack, the alpha, Low. I don't remember what his last name is. Low. And yeah, it's kind of enemies to lovers thing, kind of. Yeah, marriage of convenience in order to form like an alliance between the vampires and the werewolf. As an Ali Hazelwood book goes, there's gonna be a little bit of a plot twist that you're like, whoa, is that really happening in a romance book? But yeah, that was Bride, and those are my thoughts. Next book is the second 5-star that I had this month, and that is none other than The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli. Oh my gosh, I loved this book so much. In this book, we follow our main girl, Rune, who is a witch actually, and she lives in a society where being a witch is absolutely not okay, and the whole population is trying to eradicate witches and witchcraft in general. So Rune ends up having to go undercover and pretend that she is not a witch. But she lives in like high society, and so she attends different balls and banquets. She's trying to court different men and stuff. And she has 2 friends, one who is a witch and one who is named Alex, whose brother actually is a famous witch hunter named Gideon. And in this society, there is someone called the Crimson Moth who is killing all these innocent civilians and stuff and is believed to be this evil witch. And Gideon believes that our main girl Rune is the Crimson Moth, and in order to find evidence, he decides to fake court her to try to figure out if she actually is the Crimson Moth. But in the reverse, Rune decides to fake court Gideon because she wants information on what the witch hunters are planning to do with the witches, because she's trying to save her fellow witches. So they both don't realize that they're both using each other, and as you can guess, things get a little crazy. Yeah, this was so good. The angst. I have never really liked the romantasy genre, especially in like adult books, because I just feel like it's a little much, if you know what I mean sometimes. But this is technically a young adult book. I would personally disagree with that. Maybe more like a new adult. There are some like heavy topics in this book, so I would definitely look up trigger warning, but it was very good. I feel like the perfect amount of like steamy, perfect amount of suspense. I absolutely loved it. I was reading this on my iPad and I was just like going town. I think I finished this in like 3 days. So I loved it so much. I would highly recommend. And it's a series, I believe. I don't know how many books they're planning on doing in this series, but I cannot wait. I'm so excited for the next one. The next book I read was 7 Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb, and I actually decided to soft DNF this book. I made it like 75% of the way through it actually. I was listening to the audiobook, and I've tried to read this book in the past also, and I don't know why I just can't get into it. I might just hard DNF it. I don't know. I feel like the plot was a little bit too similar to the Crimson Moth, but not as good, so I just didn't really care about it. I also just need to remember to not listen to fantasy books because I can never pay attention to them. Like never, ever, ever. I have to, like, for audiobooks, I feel like they have to be like contemporary or just like romance or biographies or something like that, because I can just never pay attention to them. Like, I just lose my train of thought. So I did soft DNF this, so there is no rating. Yeah, I just wanted to share it. This is my one DNF for the month. My next 5-star was none other than A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I'm still like, I finished this book like a couple days ago and I'm still thinking about it all the time. I don't know if you've seen my video where I finished my April TBR. If you haven't, you definitely should. I read this book in it, and I mentioned in that video that it's been so long that I've read a book where I just like care about pretty much every character in the book so much, and that's this book right here. There are a couple like main characters in this book and different perspectives that we get, but our first character that we're introduced to is Jack, and he's been gone for 10 years on the mainland and is summoned back by the ruler of Cadence. When he gets back, he actually realizes that he was summoned by his old childhood nemesis, Adara, and she informs him that the girls in Cadence are going missing and no one knows why, and they've asked Jack to come to help because he has like a magical ability to play music that helps summon different spirits in Cadence. And this book is very character driven. You will fall in love with every character in this book. The different romances that happen and the different relationships in this book are so good. I highly suggest that you read this book. If you love Divine Rivals, it's very similar in a way, like the writing feels very similar and just like the overall vibes in general. Way different plot, but if you enjoyed that series, I would highly recommend this. This is an adult fantasy series, So compared to Divine Rivals, which was a YA, but I highly suggest this. So good. I cannot wait to pick up A Fire Endless, which is the second one. And yes, highly recommend this. And the final book that I read this month was Love and Luck by Jenna Welch. This was honestly so cute. I rated this a 4-star. It's a fun YA romance, takes place in Ireland, as you may guess. I was unsure about this one because I honestly didn't really like Love and Gelato too much, which was the first book that I read by Jenna Welch, and it's kind of in the same series. This actually follows the main girl in that book, Lena. Her best friend, Addie, is in this book. One thing that did surprise me about this book, it's not super romance heavy, which is kind of what I was looking for a little more. It was kind of more of just like a contemporary YA, but with like a romance subplot. But it was really good. It's kind of about like, you know, finding yourself after being heartbroken. Our main girl has been through the ringer and she goes to Ireland for a family wedding, and her and her brother, who she's usually very close to, they have been fighting all because of one event that we don't really find out till later what that one event was. So they've been fighting, and their mom says that the two of them have to go to Italy together because the main girl, Addie, she's going to Italy to visit Lena, the girl in the Love and Gelato book, and she says that the two of them have to go together, and if there's any fighting or whatever, they'll both be kicked off of their respective sports teams. They kind of have to come up with a plan to get along. Things go awry when her brother Ian has a secret life that she knows nothing about. They have to travel all throughout Ireland. They go to all these different landmarks. Like, I don't want to give anything away because, you know, it's like a YA romance. I feel like it's pretty easy to give things away. But I would highly recommend this if you're wanting just a cute little YA romance. I mean, it's more, like I said, contemporary with romance subplot. But I would really recommend this. I enjoyed my time. I listened to the audiobook and I really enjoyed that. The narrator was actually really good. And yeah, it was very cute. Would recommend. So here are 8 of the 9 books that I read this month. Again, such a good reading month. I have just been loving what I've been reading recently, which is why I'm not doing a TBR for May. But yeah, I'm very excited about these books. Really excited for a lot of these to continue the series for them. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you've read any of these, would love to chat about them more. But yes, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!